But overall, in my opinion, to put this album in a word, overrated. I am feeling a strong 5 to a light 6.
On paper, what Mac is trying to do should work, should be fantastic. But what he actually comes through with on this album is just too blasé for words. I'm feeling a light to decent 3.
I can't lie to myself, you know. I can't pretend that it's great when it ain't. That's how I feel. I'm coming out. This is my story. I wish that things were different. Maybe I'm not a dog. You feel me?
Frank's last album was trash.
No, it wasn't. Blonde?
Which one, Blonde? The one with no drums on it?
I don't think it was
You
trash.
need drums though?
What's up, YouTube? It's xkayhon, aka xkayhon, put you on, and today we got a new video on what makes a great album, as you can see in the title. Now, as always, if y'all like the content, hit me with a like and subscribe, comment what you think. But let's get into it. So, when I say, like, what's a great album, I think a lot of people are going to be like, well, obviously albums that I like. Okay, like albums that we enjoy. There's many lists that say like the top 50 albums, top 100 albums, X, Y, and Z, and those are often classified as great albums. Now, I think like when they classify these albums, it's kind of like a lot of it feels very politically based. And I'm not saying like politics like Joe Biden versus Trump or something like that. I mean just in terms of the music industry politics. That and public opinion, what will stir up controversy, I know Apple dropped like a top 100 albums and they had a few choice weird picks. Like they didn't have T-Pab, but they had Good Kid Mad City. They had like one Kanye album. So it's like a lot of these things can feel very geared towards a certain audience or maybe not well defined on why this is picked as such a great album. And sometimes people talk about the impact more than the music. And I think those two things go hand in hand, and we'll get into that. But also, sometimes it feels like the message of the album, in terms of like these big blogs, these big like media outlets, the impact of the album is, in their mind, bigger than the music. And in my case, I really mainly want to talk about the music itself, not necessarily the impact that it has on what kind of makes something a great album. Now, let's get into that. So, I think first of all, we all have differing opinions, okay? And it's important to note that like a great album is not going to be in one genre. A great album is not going to be by one artist. Great albums happen all the time, everywhere, on every scale, okay? And sometimes we don't hear it, sometimes we miss it, but I think it's important to find characteristics between all these things that can bring us to like a commonality in terms of like what makes a great album, because obviously John with 100 streams may make a great album. Those 100 people think it's a great album, but he doesn't have like the mainstream appeal like a Beyonce or Jay-Z, so he'll go unnoticed. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have a great album. And that's really a retort to all the Drake fans. A lot of Drake fans arguing. I think Michael Jackson fans too, very similarly. Sometimes even Taylor Swift fans, if they really need to go there, will bring up that like, oh, this artist, my artist has so many streams, he's obviously great, or she's obviously great. And I think it's very interesting to base an entire argument on why something's good based on how many people buy it. I understand that argument because I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, oh, most people are engaging with this, it must be the better thing, right? I think that's what a lot of people think. It's like everybody is buying a Drake album, but nobody's really buying Frank Ocean albums anymore. Nobody's really buying a Frank Ocean. He can't tour like Drake can. But in my mind, like my counter argument to that is like, oh, well, a lot of people eat at McDonald's, but it doesn't make it better than your local chain. Or a lot of people eat at McDonald's doesn't make it better than like Prime Red Lobster. You know what I'm saying? Like I think there is a thing with accessibility that doesn't necessarily make an album great. Like, accessibility doesn't mean that your album's automatically great. And so I think this can lead to differing opinions based on this fact, based on this argument. A lot of fans will go there. And I think it's important to note that, like, there are different arguments regarding this. However, I want to keep it more towards music and person-to-person impact versus wide or mainstream appeal. I think one of the biggest factors, if not the biggest, is relatability. And relatability doesn't necessarily mean that you directly relate to this thing or you relate to this exact experience. But relatability in the sense of, oh, I can feel what this person's going through. I may have not gone through this exactly, but I can understand how he got to this conclusion or how she got to this conclusion. For example, Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad City, or T-Pab. I don't think you need to be black and from the hood to necessarily understand or relate to those albums. Okay? When we talk about T-Pab, we talk about oppression, we talk about environmental impacts, we talk about political impacts based on black people, which I don't think you necessarily have to be black to understand those albums. Like, I think as a white person or an Asian person, you can still see those things and be like, I understand why he feels this way, why he's saying these things. I totally understand. And you can pick these things out and you relate to it. You have your friends that have dealt with this thing and you're like, oh, that is just like my friend. Why? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's been through this. I can relate to that, how Kendrick is saying that he has this. Or even somebody like System of a Down. Okay, they talk about, like, I think Middle Eastern conflicts specifically and like genocides, things like that in the earlier music. And like, I don't need to be Middle Eastern to understand that experience. Like, I can hear with his words, with his vocal inflections, with his lyrics, that I can almost feel what he's going through, what he's talking about. Doesn't necessarily mean that I fully understand. I fully feel what he's feeling, but I can relate to it and to some degree, and I can understand it. I think that's very huge in music. I think when talking about like heartbreak with like a Frank Ocean or with even like a Drake, you can feel their heartbreak, their loss, their anguish. Somebody like Jay-Z, I can understand him trying to get through that struggle of like having to make this money after he made so much money selling drugs and things like that. So you don't necessarily have to be exactly the demographic of that person to relate to them. But I think relating is very fundamental. Being able to digest this and comprehend it, which I'll get to as another point as well, that is very important, bro. Like, you need to have that in order to put a lot of thought into the album, right? And into the music. So I think that's one major point. Next, I think themes between each song have to remain consistent. I think in things that I consider great albums, the themes are consistent. I think something like Igor by Tyler, the Creator, Flower Boy by Tyler, the Creator, Frank Ocean, Blonde, Channel Orange, things like this, Control by SZA, Dijon, Absolutely. The themes are present within the albums. Igor is about heartbreak with a man that he's trying to get with who's like in the closet, also has a girlfriend. Tyler, the Creator's messy. We know Tyler's messy, okay? It just sounds more messy when I'm phrasing it this way. Or something like Dijon, Absolutely, which talks about getting through a breakup. And he's just kind of going through that process and how he wants to kind of get back with her. I think something like Vince Staples' Summertime '06, great album. Him coming to terms with the environment that he's in and kind of like just dealing with it in your face, and he's telling you exactly how he feels. Controlled by SZA. Again, kind of like figuring out these relationships while also coming to terms with herself and being like a woman and being independent, things like this. And these all have kind of like these centralized themes between each song. I could jump to one song in the album, any song. I can shuffle. And no matter how I shuffle it, I'll kind of get an understanding of like what this album is about. I think a lot of albums fail to do that. I think that's been my main gripe with Drake in the past years. I think Jack Harlow and his previous albums has kind of struggled with that as well, of trying to like I can't just shuffle and figure out what the album's talking about. He's just talking about random stuff. Lil Yachty, some of his albums kind of feel like that, where it's just random. Not to say that they don't have great albums, that these individual people don't have great albums, but that's sometimes what makes me kind of step back and be like, I don't know if this is a great album necessarily. Because of this not having kind of a string attaching all of your songs. I think this is a big point because it gives cohesion to the album. I think it gives purpose to the album, and it gives clear intent. And clear intent, I think, is giant for an album. I need to feel like you came into this knowing what it was going to be. I think intent is huge. I think that's in like all art, all mediums, but I think intent is massive. I think it's huge. All right, this one is going to feel like obvious, but I need to say it because a couple of my homies, we've had arguments about this. Okay, a few of y'all, we've had arguments. But I think great albums, the majority of the songs are good or great. I think the majority of the songs have to be great on the album. Now, a couple of my homies, I'm looking at one specifically. okay? And this is like not this is something that I've seen before, where people be like, "This is a great album. It has out of 14 tracks, it has like 3 good songs. This is a great album. This is a good album. It has 3 good songs." You would not say a restaurant is great if it only has 2 items out of 50 that are good. You wouldn't consider that a great restaurant, okay? You wouldn't consider a great basketball team to only have 2 star players, okay? Whole roster got to be solid, gang. We got to be 1996 Bulls, gang. We need to be down pat. 1990, was it 1996? Maybe 1997, whenever it was. I think a lot of people will be like, this is a great album. It only has a few tracks. I don't understand that, to be honest. It's not a good album. There's good songs, great songs, immaculate songs even. But you're going to tell me it's a great album? This package, you got a package of songs. Think about this. You bought a CD and there's 3 good songs. You're going to be pissed. You spent $14. You spent $14 looking at a track list of 15 and there is 3 good songs. A fifth of it is good. A fifth? That's my thing. It's like you're not gonna tell me that it's great, especially with like pop artists, because pop artists, they like will flood their albums with songs, or rappers that would drop mad songs, like Lil be the Bass God, or like Lil Wayne would have albums with a ton of songs. Drake does the same thing. And it's like a lot of these albums aren't great, and I appreciate them giving me many songs to pick from. I think like Donda suffered from this. I think Donda suffered a lot from that, of where we had like 20-something songs, but only like 10 of them were good. So it's like, I can't call this a great album. I don't think it's a good album. I can't just shuffle it. And so I'm not going to give it like high praise. I'm not going to give it high praise. Because like you just flooded me with songs. You threw a whole bunch of songs in my face and said, pick which one you want, bro. Boom, pick which one you want. And I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that in terms of my albums and how I digest them. I think it's kind of not the worst idea in like this social media landscape where a lot of people are digesting stuff very fast and will just skip through albums. But I don't like it. Switch it. Don't do that. I don't like it. I don't like it. That might be a hot take, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's a hot take. Next, and I kind of talked about this before, but I believe an album has to be digestible to fans. And specifically, I think it has to be digestible to new fans as well. And what I mean by that is, I think great albums will be easily digestible. Not in the sense of like the things they're talking about are very simple, or not in the sense of like whatever they're talking about is like surface level or something like that, or just basic. I actually think it's the opposite. I think great albums will have these complex topics, and the outlet of the artist is just, they're a great teacher. They're great at explaining what's happening to them. I think all great artists are able to convey emotion, convey this feeling that they have. It's almost like having a teacher that's like teaching you calculus or like crazy algebra, and a great teacher is able to break down this complex topic and make your dumb little monkey brain understand. Like I think those are the greatest artists, are people who are able to take this complex thing and put it in my face and be like, this is exactly what it is. This is exactly how I feel. This is exactly what I want to portray. And they do that with ease. Some of the albums that I named, I think all do that. All the albums that I think are great, in my opinion, are able to do that. And I think it sounds kind of simple, but I think it's very hard to do, genuinely. I think it's hard to feel something and then, first of all, have that on a track that sounds really, really nice, and also be able to explain and convey with poetry, with your message, with your voice, exactly how you feel. I think it's like mission impossible. I think it's so difficult to do, but the great artists are able to do that. Great artists are exceptional at doing that. One album that I think does that very well is Swimming by Mac Miller. Oh my gosh. He talks about depression, grief, like all these complex feelings of loss, and kind of just drowning, basically, not knowing how he should even feel. And he portrays that in this beautifully compact album just so well. And I talk about Mac Miller a lot on this page, and like every day I kind of realize how much more I like him and his art and his beauty explanation. He just does so many things well that I will only praise him as time goes on. I'll only praise him. And I think there are a lot of artists that do this very, very well. that are able to portray all their emotions and just do it so seamlessly, so easily. And I think even new fans should be able to come in, not know who the artist is, and just digest their music. Like Frank Ocean, Blonde. I jumped into Blonde. I hadn't listened to Channel Orange first. I didn't know who Frank Ocean really was. I didn't really listen to him growing up. But I jumped into Blonde like right around when I was like 17, 16. And bro, when I tell you, like, I instantly knew who this man was. Just from this album, I knew exactly what he stood for, exactly what was happening in his life. And it was just so digestible. Off the first listen, I knew I loved the album. Off the first listen, I knew kind of what the album was about. And so it's just that, I think, is like a major point that I think a lot of artists have trouble with, especially when they're trying to do Heartbreak. I think it's so hard to do Heartbreak, or Stories of Oppression, I think, are very hard. And lastly, I think one of the most important things in terms of music is that you have to feel authentic. You have to feel authentic, okay? Now, it's going to sound kind of odd, right? Like, you have to feel authentic. Like, you don't have to be authentic. My argument is no. I don't think you have to be authentic in this day and age anymore. I think with social media, I think with people kind of creating these identities online, you don't know who these people are. Like, you don't know their background. At least with rappers coming up back in the day, you kind of knew exactly what area they were from. They had people that backed them. Like, there would be documentation of, like, things that they had done, X, Y, and Z. And, like, you don't really need that anymore. Like, I don't know if Olivia Rodrigo is actually having these heartbreaks. But when you hear her, you're like, oh, she's down bad. She's having these heartbreaks. She is not doing okay. I think with any artist, they just need to feel authentic to you. Whatever they're explaining just needs to be conveyed in a way that you fully understand what's happening, what they're saying. And I think a lot of artists don't necessarily feel authentic. Sometimes it feels very forced. Sometimes you're listening and you're like, I don't know if you've even been through this. Like, I don't know if you feel this way actually. And you kind of see that as their music progresses. Like, they kind of don't have that. They're not solid in terms of who they are, and they kind of switch up what they're talking about, how they feel about things. A lot of pop artists will do that just to fit a sound, a narrative, a wave, whatever their PR team tells them. So I do think it's like very, very interesting kind of to see these artists who aren't authentic. But I think the main thing is that you need to feel authentic. You need to present to me in a way that feels authentic. It's very hard to fake, but I think artists do it for sure. So as long as you feel authentic, the audience is going to mess with you. That's going to make me think, oh, this is a great album. I resonate. I think they're what they're talking about, I think they feel it. You can see through people who are not authentic very easily. I think that happens all the time. When I'm listening to new artists especially, I'm like, why do you have a New York accent and you're from Orlando, Florida? Like, what's happening here? And that's just like a very surface level way of like people not feeling authentic. And so, yeah, I think feeling authentic is one of the major points that you need to have. And yeah, I think that's mainly what I think makes a great album. Let me know if you disagree, what you think, how you feel about it. Am I wrong? Let me know. I like appreciate feedback for sure, like conversation. Also, all of this, the music has to sound good as well. Like, I think that's major. I think that was kind of like an underlying passive ability of this video, is like the music also has to sound good. That's like a given. So I didn't say it, but I'm going to say it now. But I didn't say it because like that's a given. Now, as always, if you guys like the content, hit me with a like and subscribe. Quick little update. Videos have been doing well. Our last video got like 1,000 views. And it was like a 20-minute video on like why the audience comes last. So that was crazy. The Mac Miller video still had like 32,000 views or something. Crazy. And we keep getting copywritten for every video. It's chill, I guess. Nothing I can do. I like putting clips to have examples, so I'm probably going to suffer for that for a long time. TikTok's been doing decent. Instagram's been doing decent. So, yeah, not much else to say. As always, I love you guys and appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in and watching. As always, if you like the content, hit me with a like and subscribe. Peace out. Be smooth.